example. I live in a community, a retirement community, and there were 4 women that were practicing singing on the stage in the auditorium. Because I'm on the AV committee, I went in and turned lights on for them. And the music was just wonderful. It was barbershop quartet with 4 women. It was a wonderful sound, and here they were. The room was lighted, but the stage wasn't, and I just went back and turned on the lights. I got so much joy out of doing that. And they got joy in that they could see. They weren't fumbling in the dark. And then afterwards, someone called me at home and said, "The lights are still on." I said, "Okay, don't worry about it. Somebody will turn them off." But it was that, it's so simple in terms of what it is. So, in that little bit of story that I told you about myself, what gifts could you affirm in me? What gifts could you say I have?
Mindful of others.
Pardon?
Mindful of others.
Thank you.
Initiative.
Thank you.
Generosity.
Good.
You knew how to turn on the lights.
I had technical skill. I did, because it's not it's a panel, and there are about 30 lights on stage, and I needed to know which light to turn on. Thank you. This is the kind of thing I want us to do in small groups. I'd like you to tell your story to 2 other people. One of the gifts that we have as friends, I think there are 2 gifts that we have as friends. One is that we see the good over the bad, and we lift up the good. And we sometimes, it's sort of like the bank merger approach is to take what's bad and make it better. I see us as Quakers taking what is good and lifting that up, because when we lift that up, stuff that's not so good gets lifted up too. So I feel that that's one of the things that we do. That's one of the gifts that we have as a community. And the second gift that we have is the ability to listen. Do you know how generous that is for us to be able to listen? We can be so generous in listening to other people. And that's one of the gifts I think we have as a community. So I'm asking us to do that in listening to another. You can be intuitive about this. You might get a color that comes to you, or a title of a book when the person, and it makes no sense at all to you. But please write it down on these cards. If you will take 2 cards each, please. Take 2 cards each, and as you're listening to the person who is telling their story, please write down the things that you intuit that person's strength is using or seeing. And then when they're finished, and I like to have that done in 5 minutes, so we each have 5 minutes to share, that's 15 minutes, and then we'll come back here in the group. So the person tells his or her story, or their story, and then while you're listening, you're writing down something that you see as strengths in that person. When they are finished, please read to them verbally what it is that they have, what you see in them. So, and then give them the card. So when you are finished telling your story, you will have 2 cards that say something about what your gifts could be. Those directions are on the bottom of the sheet. Any questions? I think you can all count to 3, so will you get into groups of 3? And I'll give you a time when you should be changing and finishing up on that person to go to the next person.